Welcome to Resourced and Resourceful Leadership, a podcast for people who care about the world and their impact in it. I'm Dr. Christine Pettit, and I'm so happy that you're here today. If you are watching on YouTube, you'll notice a different setting. I'm at El Dorado Park in Long Beach, and I'm here because this is my retreat week. And so one of the things that I wanted to do in my retreat week was to go different places and go to places that bring me inspiration and joy. So this is my first excursion. I'm recording on Wednesday. And I think I'll probably get in a trip to the aquarium one of these days as well. But this podcast, you'll notice I didn't do intro music. I'm not going to edit it. So it's really just one and done, imperfections and all, because it's retreat week and I don't want to spend a lot of time editing or adding sound or anything like that. So thanks for being part of retreat week with me. I wanted to just report live on how things are going, or not so live because I'll publish this, but things are going well. I started retreat week coming back from Oregon on Sunday night and getting settled back into being at home. Still not fully unpacked or anything like that, but settled in. and I also just wanted to start it off to just get going. I did some things in Oregon that helped me get work off of my plate for this week so I could really focus. So I've done minimal work. I also did minimal work while I was in Oregon, but I did a few key things. One, I sent an email to my email list. If you're not on it, get on there, please. While I was in the airport, I did that, and I posted on Instagram about La 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 Lunch, which is this Friday. And then I also, when I was at my Aunt Babs's house one morning, she took Ellie to make art and have hot chocolate, and I stayed back and worked on some proposals that I had for work that I'm doing, and so I sent those out. I guess that was Friday, and then I heard back yesterday that the proposals had been accepted, so I'm excited for that. Just some new work that I like to do, or a new project of work that I like to do, which is coaching and training related to facilitation. So I like to do trainings on how to make facilitation inclusive and action-oriented, so people feel like it's a good use of their time and they feel like their voice is heard and matters. So anyway, retreat week, I started out receiving coaching from my coach Stephanie, and she very generously offered me some free check-in sessions. So she offered check-in and check-out for the day, which I really appreciated. I decided to opt for check-in sessions because after my first day, I was creating, till like 7 p.m. and then doing some other things even after that at different points. And then I have some more like constraints these days, Tuesday, Wednesday, when I'm picking Ellie up from camp. And then, so I have some kind of like constraints. So I also want to just be free to kind of create and retreat when as the energy is there and as the time is there. And so we're doing check-ins in the mornings, and that's been really helpful. And then I'm just texting her kind of along the way. So the first day was very kind of computer heavy, and I spent a lot of time, I spent time extracting all the transcripts from my podcast. So got all those. I was able to use AI to create a tool to do that in a much faster way than I would have done. And then I spent some time with looking at the themes and the synthesis from the episodes and what direction that is giving me in terms of future offers. So I spent a lot of time with that and thinking about group coaching that I'm interested in offering, and so that became more clear. I also tinkered around with a syllabus for my podcast, which is something that Stephanie had suggested as a way to kind of help distill that content and to make it what's it called? Yeah, to make it accessible for people. So that's what I kind of like got that started, and then I started playing around with I really want to do a values statement, kind of like a pinned post on my Instagram, and using that copy too for my website. So I've been thinking about that for a while. So I got started thinking about that, did some invites for La 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 Lunch, which I really appreciated. Stephanie was flexible, and she was like, oh, you still need to invite some people? Because I did an initial around to just a couple people, then I posted it on Instagram, and then I knew I needed to do some more outreach and post it on LinkedIn as well. So she was like, go do it now and then we'll reconvene. So we did that, and so I did do some of that kind of stuff, but it was a lot of just thinking, taking it in. That day I was on my computer a lot, and so I did my kind of checkout for the day for myself was okay, this was really good, really generative, but I want to do some more creative stuff off of my computer, and I want to eat better food, intentionally eat, yummy food, not a particular nutritional quality, but yummy food. And then more dance breaks. And I think there was some more there just about thinking. So that was good. And then Tuesday in the check-in, I was just setting some more intentions around the creative aspect. I can't remember what I did. The first day I printed out a schedule grid and I wrote down what I did. I did not do that hour by hour yesterday, so it's harder to remember. But I do know I ended up picking up Ellie early from camp because she wasn't feeling well. We went and got my car washed, and then I set out with colored paper, and so I was just okay, at least colored paper and a marker. What is going to come from this? And I know I had wanted to, one of the things that came out was doing a timeline activity. Okay, so that's what I did in the morning. So I went through my calendar. I thought about the things from my consulting work pre-going all in, which was in October of 2023. But there were a lot of kind of seeds and other work that I had done and was doing before I went all in on my business. So I thought about and mapped out that stuff, and then I looked at my calendar and I started to just write down kind of notes, highlights of the clients I had, the type of work I was doing, all of that. And so I noticed that when I was looking at my calendar from those early days especially, even the first 6 months, I was like just exhausted looking at it. I mean, I really jumped in to one, I had clients already, so I was coaching and doing work. But then I was meeting with a ton of people and reconnecting with people and letting them know I was all in. I remember at that time too, I just had this very simple practice of emailing 5 people a day to let them know about my business, what I was offering, and to, for some people, it was like I genuinely wanted to connect with them, and so there were invitations to connect, and so I was doing a lot of like coffee meetings, connecting with folks, talking on Zoom, etc., and then a lot of networking events. So I look back and I was like starting to take notes, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like overwhelmed. I'm tired just looking at this. So that was one realization. But I did it. I persisted through present day, and it was interesting to think, like, a few things stood out to me. One, I ended up mapping out my trajectory a little differently than I thought I would. It wasn't like a timeline from month to month, year to year, but really these kind of 4 major buckets. I have my life and my early leadership experience that has shaped me. And then I have these significant leadership experiences with very limited support, nothing formal, a lot of really hard lessons that I took from that time. Then I moved to being in an intense leadership position again, but with formal support and with peer networks and with more resources internally as well, to pull from and to learn from. And that's where I really, from that phase where I had the hard lessons, that's where I learned, I really need to hone in my own barometer of success, and I need like intentional support. I think I didn't know about the intentional support till it was offered to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I feel so grateful that I had coaching offered to me, and that I had this like peer network that I was part of, and that helped me a lot. So that's kind of the third space. And then the fourth piece on my journey is continuing to tap into support. So I still get coaching. I'm still part of different groups. I still have, friends and practices that nourish me and that cheer me on in the friend case. And so continuing to tap and support while supporting others with my work. And I have found that it's actually very healing to work with folks who are doing movement work, doing organizational leadership, even if it's not movement work, being in, like, there's still such an important way to live out your values and to be good to the people around you, regardless of the particular mission of your organization. Some of my most healing work has been working with union leaders and providing the type of support that would have been seriously transformational for me and maybe help me stay longer. So that was really cool to map out like these different phases of my journey so far, and then what support has looked like over the time, like therapy, key family and friends, learning how to tap into my inner wisdom, receiving coaching, having a practice around creativity, having a practice around mindfulness, having that connect to my thoughts and actions around self and community care, the groups and the networks that I'm a part of, and then also the ways that I get to give back to both to other people through my work and through donating to people and organizations that I want to support, sponsoring organizations, sponsoring client organizations, that I believe in and that have given a lot to me. So that was just one exercise that I did. And another thing that came up as I was reflecting, so then, well, before I did put it all on one piece of paper like that, is I like verbal processed it and I recorded it. I'm going to spare you. But I recorded myself talking for like 50 minutes about all these different things. So I want to go back and like look at the transcript to that too. But that was helpful. So definitely a lot of like going back through, doing that reflection and helping to make sense of it. And then one of the things that really stood out to me is I've had these kind of champions along the way who have referred work to me, shared opportunities with me, and like clients who are like kind of my super referrers. And so I just have a lot of gratitude too for the people in my world who support me in a lot of different ways, but really recognizing that pathway to different clients through people that I worked with. And I also think that's one of the best testimonials that I could get, is that people are saying, hey, you should work with Christine too. You know, it benefited me. And sometimes even referring me in ways that it's like, this is not the exact way that we worked together, but they have confidence in my approach to refer me for other types of work. So thank you for those listening who do that for me. I really appreciate the referrals and just your confidence in me. So from that process yesterday, I spent more time with these colorful pieces of paper, just drawing out, like one that came out just was space. Let your work breathe. Let yourself breathe. And that's just what I wrote on this pink piece of paper. So I spent some time with that. Like, what does it mean to let my work breathe? What does it mean to let myself breathe? And I have created some space, even physically on my calendar, where I do book things for Mondays and Fridays, but I don't allow people to schedule in those times. And even where I do allow people to schedule, I make sure to kind of set up my calendar with some guardrails, some space. And then also, like, I'm allowing myself space by taking this retreat. So I think that is also great. So just letting my work breathe, letting myself breathe. And then I felt inspired just to write like the different projects that I have going on right now. So of course this podcast, I took out a purple piece of paper and I just wrote Resource and Resourceful Leadership, a podcast for people who care about the world and their impact in it. And then I think the next one I did was these group offerings that are kind of bubbling up around this metaphor around the fire. Group coaching to tend to your inner flame or your inner spark. So I'm working on that around the fire, and I think that's one of the things that's being birthed out of this retreat. Something else that's been important for me to hold during this retreat is that one, I would have gone into a retreat that I facilitate for a client in a more structured way, but here I set some basic kind of purpose and outcomes that I was hoping for and some ideas about process, but I didn't fully like map out each day, which I would do for a client for sure. But I think I just was like, I want to allow it to kind of unfold as well. But something I've had to remind myself is that retreats, it's not where all the work happens, and you rarely come out with like a fully finished product. What you come away with is some really good work, sometimes some key decisions, like you meet the outcomes of it, but the work continues. And I encourage like boards that I work with, for example, to their very next board meeting to look through the next steps and prioritize them if we didn't get to that point, or like figure out, okay, we're working on our committee structure, we're working on this. And so they have something that they're then working off of for the year, really. And so that's what I'm thinking about here is like, I don't have to rush to complete all this work. What I need to do is really help plant the seeds for what I'm going to continue to tend throughout the year. So that's been a helpful reminder. I did then take out a yellow piece of paper and draw a microphone and write la 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 lunch, karaoke and catharsis for people who care. And then I wrote, and other gatherings, ... or heart, because I have been hosting really occasional community lunches. I've done 2. And so this is like an iteration off community lunches, but this kind of fun and this targeted group of parents, more broadly, like leadership broadly, social impact sector, what is that even? But the nonprofit, philanthropy, mission-driven, etc. sector. And so that's happening Friday, and so I just kind of wanted to capture that with my offerings. And I think there too, it's like embracing that quality of creativity, of fun, while people are doing like really hard and important work. So I have that. And then I took another piece of paper, a blue piece of paper, and I wrote breath on it. And then I wrote space. And I was thinking about, well, what is the connection between like Around the Fire, a group coaching container on Zoom, and La 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 Lunch, like karaoke. But breath came to mind, and space, and like karaoke and fire, they need space. They need some breath, usually wind. And then, fire has these devastating impacts too. For me, it's like about fire needing a container. So if it doesn't have enough space or breath or air, there's no flame. So how do I support people and create a container that helps support people in tending to their inner flame, tending to their inner spark? And also, let's make sure this is a container. It's a safe container, so our fire doesn't, spill all over and burn everything down. So that's some of what I've been thinking through. And then the latter part of the day was playing around with writing out my values and how that shows up for me in coaching, but also consulting, what I believe. And so I started out by writing kind of like on little pieces of paper, like I was going to, those could be like little Instagram slides, each one's different. And this is not fully formed, but this is where I'm at right now. Well-being includes joy, play, rest, and connection. It includes self and community care. The world is better with you in it. Your voice and experiences matter. Nobody is disposable. Systems shape our lives, and we can shape them as well. Intentional action. Intentional yeses and nos. Self-leadership. Change is possible. Do what you can where you are. We always have some choice. Practice is better than perfection, or practice over perfection. Both and over either or. Then I calculated, like, what percentage of my income am I giving to causes? Because I haven't set an intentional target. I was curious. So in 2025, approximately 3% of my income went to organizations that are doing work that I care about, and as well as people, but I don't think that's captured in that number. I'd have to tease it out more, like the individual GoFundMe or the thing that's not a 501c3. So some of the causes I care about are civic engagement, youth organizing, social justice, and there's like an asterisk there. I mean, I 100% believe in social justice and equality for everyone. And the asterisk is that my social justice and the way that looks is transformative. It rejects perfection and purity tests and saying things exactly the way that, is the way to say it right now, and kind of this academic social justice-y. I really bring an intersectional lens to how I see the world, and that's informed by Black feminist thought, but that's what resonates with me the most. So a lot there with racial, gender, economic justice, and all of the justices, with LGBTQ, disability, access, etc. But with an intersectional lens and with a lens that is inclusive. You can see why that won't all fit on a slide. I also really like to invest in the well-being of children and families, and I don't limit that just to people who look like me or people in the country with me. And I love to donate to local organizations and my clients as well, my organizational clients. And I like to support my clients as well. More is that my approach, I amplify inner wisdom while also tending to wounded parts. That systems shape our lives, and what we do in those systems matters. So when I work with people, it's not outside of the idea of systemic oppression or the way that we're shaped by systems, the way that they influence our lives. It very much includes that as well. And it's not just systems. There's some choice in how we navigate and all of that. It's not an either or. Again, both and. So I think I went through all of those. So I've been trying to think about, like, how does that fit neatly on some carousel? And got some good insight in my coaching with Stephanie today too around that, but still struggling with it a little bit. One thing that was helpful, I talked last episode about taking the long view. This episode, or this coaching session, we played with taking the shorter view. Like, whatever I put out there, it's just a post. It changes, it can change, the language can change. So yeah, that's where I'm at. When I started writing, kind of like some more writing is like, a better world is possible, change is inevitable, the world is better when we all put our piece in, when we all contribute, and then some both and statements. You have wisdom inside you, and you have wounded parts too, both need attention. You are capable of change, and you are worth celebrating as you are right now. Societal systems shape your life, and the choices you make within them, these systems matter. So there's that. And then I started thinking about, like, what does this have to do with consulting? I mean, definitely it shapes my approach with consulting as well, but some of that is like, people are asking me to bring in my expertise. So here's what I wrote about that. Meet people in orgs where they at. I have expertise and experience, but I am not the expert. Your context matters. Knowledge doesn't leave with me. It expands within the organization. Capacity builds. I bring an intersectional lens that values people's lived experience, organizational histories, and context, supports different communication and engagement styles, is aware of power dynamics, culturally and trauma aware, not perfect, allows me to be imperfect, always learning and growing. I bring an approach that normalizes conflict and change and has tools to support you and me in navigating that. And I believe in and help facilitate change as needed. So, how I'm going to synthesize all of this, it's in progress, but I think it's been really valuable to pull it out. And today has been less generative in this like kind of wordy way and more about doing some coaching on considering kind of what space is needed. I did make time for a quick client call today, like less than 15 minutes. We're gonna squeeze in a quick disc session on Monday, which is my birthday. I did not mention that because I didn't want to discourage him. I don't feel like I need to be off on my birthday, especially after taking this week, not off, but in to retreat. And anyway, I'm excited to do that, but quick call there, some quick client work, and then I did a session on breath work, and that's within the regenerative business ecosystem that I'm part of, with Sam Garcia, and can't remember the person's name right now, MT something, but she did breath work, and it was really about the focus of that group was on letting go of being worried about being judged. So always relevant. It's definitely one of the things that came up in my early coaching this week as something that holds me back and swirls around and makes me swirl around really about, am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this? Am I going to do this? So anyway, and then I did yesterday like put on a record and dance a little bit, Rolling Stones. They're not a favorite, but they're not a favorite. That's just a record that I have that I don't even know if I listened to. So I put it on, it just called to me yesterday. And then today I'm kind of meeting the mark of going somewhere else and recording my podcast here and reflecting on what I've been doing in the retreat. So that's good. And what else? Oh, I was very happy working with my trainer, Emily, today, that she is going to set aside a week to do some writing, what she wants to. I hope she doesn't mind that I'm talking about it. And I think this retreat that I'm doing has inspired her, and I think she told me about it. Well, she told me this is because she's been tempted to push it off and, not protect that time. And so now she has some accountability to protect that time. So I am happy that if just one person feels inspired by this space that I've taken for myself and my business, I hope that it can be helpful. And as I was looking at my earlier episodes, I realized that it was kind of my intention to close with a coaching question, and somewhere along the way I lost that, so I want to get back to it. So for you, dear listener, as I wrap up the podcast episode today, let's look at this theme of space and what is asking you for space right now. What is asking you for space? What could use a little space in your life? some room to breathe. And then what's one tiny step you can take to give yourself that space right now? And a tiny step, like a micro movement, it just takes 5 seconds to 5 minutes to start. So think really, really tiny. What is calling for more space right now? What needs more breath? Some room to breathe? And what's one tiny, tiny way you can honor that right now, or ASAP? All right, thank you for listening in today to the Resourced and Resourceful Leadership Podcast. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. You can follow it on YouTube. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Please tell people about it. I always love your feedback. There's a lot of different ways that you can leave me feedback, including a voice message on SpeakPipe. I have not received one of those for a while. Would love to. So yeah, thanks again and take good care.